When Ana Luna slid off Ocelot's back that golden dawn, her pregnant belly cradled by a trembling hand, her eyes shining like rain-washed stars, she hadn't just tamed the horse no one could ride, she'd tamed the fear that held us all captive. But to understand how a pregnant woman, clad in rags and bearing the scars of life, achieved what professional riders had failed, we must go back 3 months to when Ana Luna arrived at the Baranicha Ranch with nothing but a cardboard suitcase and a secret growing in her womb. It was October when she knocked on the big house's door, her dark hair plastered to her forehead by sweat from the walk. She'd walked 8 miles from the nearest bus stop after the last bus dropped her in the middle of nowhere. Her calloused hands clutched a crumpled piece of paper with the address scrawled in blue ink, a horse handler job she'd seen advertised on the church bulletin board. Tame, the ranch foreman, greeted her on the porch with a skeptical look. He was a 60-year-old man with graying hair and a heart even bigger than his distrust. When Ana explained she was there for the job, he shook his head. "Ma'am, you're pregnant. Working with horses isn't a joke, and the boss, well, the boss isn't an easy man." Ana squared her shoulders and lifted her chin with a dignity that contrasted with her worn clothes. "Mr. Martim, I worked in a circus for 10 years. I've handled mares, foals, horses of all ages. I know what I'm doing." There was something in her voice, a blend of determination and vulnerability, that touched the foreman's heart. He sighed and gestured for her to follow him to the stables. The Baranicha Ranch was an empire built on gambling and eccentricities. Claudio Baranicha, heir to a fortune made in agrobusiness, had transformed the property into a playground for his millionaire whims. Horse races, impossible competitions, challenges that attracted people from all over the country, everything revolved around his obsession with proving that money could buy anything, even the impossible. At the center of it all was Ocelot. Ana saw him for the first time on a rainy afternoon while helping Martim reorganize the stables. The black stallion was isolated in a reinforced stall at the end of the aisle, far from the other animals. Even from a distance, his presence was magnetic. Defined muscles beneath a coat that gleamed like wet obsidian, wild eyes that seemed to hold storms. "That one's trouble," Martim murmured, noticing Ana's interest. "Came here 2 years ago, wild from the backcountry. The boss paid a fortune for him, said he'd be the fastest horse in the state. Problem is, nobody can even get close." Ana watched Ocelot pace restlessly in his stall, his tail whipping the air impatiently. There was something familiar in that contained energy, that silent rebellion. It was like looking in a mirror. "Has he hurt anyone?" Ana asked. 3 riders in the hospital," Martim replied, "but not out of malice, out of fear." That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Ana returned to the stables. She couldn't sleep. The baby was kicking insistently, as if sharing her restlessness. She walked to Ocelot's stall and sat on the floor, her back against the wooden wall. The horse watched her curiously, his nostrils flaring, taking in her scent. Ana began humming a song her Romani grandmother had taught her as a child, an ancient melody about wild horses running free across the steppes. Her voice, raspy but sweet, echoed softly through the stable. To her surprise, Ocelot stopped pacing. He approached the bar separating them and lowered his head, his ears attentive. Ana continued singing, and gradually a silent connection was established between them. "You feel trapped too, don't you?" she whispered, extending her hand toward the horse. "I understand." This became her routine. Every night, after the ranch fell silent, Ana visited Ocelot. She talked to him about her life in the circus, about the horses she'd known, about the baby she carried, and the uncertain future that awaited them. Ocelot listened silently, and gradually his posture became less defensive. During the day, Ana worked with tireless dedication. She cared for the other horses, cleaned stables, prepared feed. Her movements, despite her growing belly, were precise and confident. Claudio Baranicha noticed her one morning in December. He was inspecting the stables when he saw Anna assisting a mare in labor. Her gentle hands guided the process with an expertise he didn't expect from a temporary employee. "Who is she?" he asked Martime. "Anna Luna, boss, arrived 2 months ago, the best handler we've ever had." Claudio observed Anna for a few minutes. He was a man accustomed to categorizing people quickly, useful or useless, interesting or insignificant. Anna didn't fit into any familiar category. There was something about her that intrigued him. "She's pregnant," he observed. "Yes, sir, but it doesn't hinder her work. On the contrary." Claudio nodded and walked away, but Anna had piqued his curiosity. In the following days, he began to observe her discreetly. He noticed how the horses reacted to her presence, how she could calm nervous animals with just a touch or a soft word. That's when he had a wicked idea. The ranch was preparing for the New Year's Eve party, a grand event that Claudio organized annually to impress friends, rivals, and potential business partners. It would be the perfect occasion for his next impossible bet. "Martime," he called one afternoon, a predatory smile gleaming on his lips, "I want you to spread the word. 2 million reais for whoever can tame Ocelot." The foreman went pale. "Boss, that's crazy. Someone's going to get seriously hurt." "Their problem," Claudio laughed. "I want professional riders, amateurs, anyone who thinks they're brave enough. This will be the greatest spectacle this ranch has ever seen." The news spread like wildfire. Within days, riders from all over the country confirmed their presence. The local press covered the event. Gamblers started making their predictions. Baranicha Ranch became the center of attention. Anna learned about the wager from the ranch hands' conversations. Her heart ached at the thought of strangers trying to subdue Ocelot by force. That night, she visited the horse as she always did, but found him more agitated than usual. "You feel it, don't you?" she murmured, stroking his muzzle through the bars. Ocelot whinnied softly, a sound Anna had learned to interpret as anguish. She sang for longer that night, her voice trying to convey all the calmness she could muster. These stories you're hearing are part of a special collection about overcoming adversity and human connection. If you want to continue receiving touching stories like this, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss the next chapters of this exciting journey. New Year's Eve arrived with frenetic activity. Trucks brought in equipment, cameras, temporary bleachers. The ranch had transformed into a veritable circus, an irony that didn't escape Anna. Riders arrived with their gear, some accompanied by entire entourages. Gamblers, journalists, onlookers, all eager for the spectacle. Anna watched from afar, her heart heavy. Dr. Henrique, the ranch veterinarian, approached her late in the afternoon. "Anna, you should leave tonight," he said, concern clear in his voice. "It's going to be dangerous, and in your condition." She shook her head. "I can't leave Ocelot alone. He'll be terrified." The doctor sighed. He was a kind man who had developed a paternal affection for Anna. "At least promise you'll stay away from the arena." Anna nodded, but both knew she wouldn't be able to stay away. As night fell, the atmosphere grew more charged. Colorful lights illuminated the makeshift arena. A band played country music as the guests drank champagne and made side bets. Claudio circulated among the groups, the confident smile of someone who knew his bet was impossible to lose. Anna positioned herself behind the stone wall separating the arena from the stables. From there, she could see everything without being noticed. Her hands trembled, partly nervousness, partly the movements of the baby, who seemed to sense her anxiety. Midnight approached as Claudio climbed onto the makeshift platform and grabbed the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice echoed through the arena, "the time has come for the great challenge. 2 million reais await the brave or insane who can tame Ocelot. The crowd roared its approval. Anna watched as they brought Ocelot into the arena. 4 men holding ropes attached to a special halter, the horse resisting every step. His wild eyes scanned the crowd, his nostrils flared with fear and anger. The first rider entered the arena with the confidence of 20 years of experience. It lasted less than 10 seconds. Ocelot threw him in the dust before he could even get settled in the saddle. The second tried a more cautious approach, circling the horse, trying to tire him out first. Ocelot reared up on his hind legs and knocked him down with a move that drew screams from the audience. One after another, the riders failed. Some couldn't even mount the horse. Others were thrown off as soon as they touched his coat. With each failure, Claudio smiled wider, raising his eyebrows with malicious satisfaction. Anna felt her heart break with each new attempt. Ocelot was becoming increasingly agitated, his eyes bloodshot, white foam at the corners of his mouth. It wasn't anger she saw in him, it was pure terror. When the last professional rider was carried out of the arena, Claudio returned to the microphone. "Well, well," he laughed, "it seems Ocelot remains invincible. Anyone else want to try their luck? Perhaps some brave soul from the audience?" The crowd laughed and applauded, but no one volunteered. Anna felt something break inside her. She couldn't watch anymore. Before she could stop herself, she stepped out from behind the wall and walked toward the center of the arena. Silence was instantaneous. All conversation ceased. The spotlights illuminated her. A 7 months pregnant woman in simple clothes covered in dust, her hair disheveled, but with a determination in her eyes that cut the air like a blade. "I want to try," she said, her voice low but clear enough to be heard by everyone. The arena erupted in laughter. Someone yelled, "Go home, lady." Another sneered, "You're going to hurt the baby." Claudio descended from the platform, his smile now mixed with disbelief. "Excuse me, miss, but this is impossible. You're pregnant. It's too dangerous." "I know what's dangerous," Anna replied, her hands protectively over her belly. "And I know what's necessary." Something in the tone of her voice made Claudio hesitate. There was a strength there that he couldn't understand, a conviction that seemed to spring from a very deep place. "You work on my ranch," he said, finally recognizing her. "Ana Luna, isn't it?" "Yes. And you really believe you can do what professional riders couldn't?" Anna looked at Ocelot, who was being held by several ropes in the center of the arena. Her eyes met the horse's, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. "I'm not going to tame him," she said. "I'm going to free him." The crowd murmured in confusion. Claudio frowned. "What do you mean?" "Taming means breaking someone's will," Anna explained. "I don't want to break Ocelot. I want him to trust me." Claudio laughed, but there was less certainty in his voice now. "Trust doesn't win bets, my dear." "But it can win hearts," Anna retorted. There was something in the simplicity of that response that silenced even the most skeptical. Claudio studied Anna's face for a long moment, seeing a sincerity that brutally contrasted with the cynicism that surrounded him. "Very well," he finally said, "but if you're going to do this, let's make it interesting. If you succeed, when you don't succeed," he corrected himself with a smile, "you leave the ranch forever." Anna didn't hesitate. "I accept." Dr. Henry rushed over. "Anna, don't do this. Think about your baby." "I am thinking about him," she said, touching her belly. "I want him to be born into a world where trust is stronger than dominance." Marty appeared beside the doctor, his face contorted with worry. "Girl, you've gone crazy. That horse has sent 3 men to the hospital." "Those men came as enemies," Anna said. "I come as a friend." The arena was reorganized. The ropes were removed from Ocelot, who immediately moved to the far corner, panting and alert. Anna positioned herself in the center, her hands trembling slightly. Claudio checked his stopwatch. 3 minutes, he announced. If in 3 minutes you're not mounted on that horse and have completed a full lap around the arena, our bet is off. Anna nodded. The silence in the arena was absolute. Hundreds of people held their breath, waiting for what would surely be a disaster. Then Anna did something no one expected. Instead of approaching Ocelot, she knelt on the sandy ground and took her worn gloves from her pocket. With her bare fingers, she began to draw circles in the sand, tracing patterns that seemed ancient, ancestral. And she began to sing. The melody that flowed from her throat was the same one she hummed every night in the stables, a Romani song about wild horses running free. Her voice, while not technically perfect, carried an emotion so pure that it sent shivers down the spines of everyone present. Ocelot stopped struggling. His ears pricked up, catching the familiar melody. Slowly, very slowly, he began to approach. "Impossible," someone murmured in the audience. Anna continued singing, her eyes closed, her hands still tracing patterns in the sand. Ocelot approached step by step, his breathing becoming more regular. When he was only a few feet away, Anna opened her eyes. "Hello, my friend," she whispered. Ocelot lowered his head and nuzzled on his hands. For the first time since arriving at the ranch, he wasn't in an attacking position. Anna slowly rose, careful not to make any sudden movements. She extended her hand towards Ocelot's muzzle, and, to everyone's absolute astonishment, he allowed the touch. Claudio checked his stopwatch. 2 minutes had passed. 1 minute, he yelled, his voice sharp with nervousness. Anna knew she didn't have time for the gradual approach that would be ideal. Maintaining eye contact with Ocelot, she gently placed her hand on his neck. The horse tensed but didn't move away. "I know you're scared," she murmured. "I am too, but we don't need to be afraid of each other." With movements that resembled a dance, Anna circled Ocelot until she was beside his flank. The horse followed her with his eyes, tense but not hostile. 30 seconds, Claudio shouted. Anna placed her hand on Ocelot's back. He tensed, muscles tightening, but remained still. In a burst of courage and faith, she pushed herself up and mounted him. For a terrifying moment, Ocelot remained completely still. The entire arena held its breath. Then, slowly, he began to walk. It wasn't a triumphant ride like in the movies. It was something far more beautiful, a walk of trust. Ocelot completed a full lap around the arena. His steps measured and careful, Anna perfectly balanced on his back, one hand resting on her pregnant belly, the other gently stroking the horse's neck. When the stopwatch reached 3 minutes, Anna slid to the ground with the same grace with which she had mounted. Ocelot remained beside her, his head low near her shoulder. The arena erupted. It wasn't ordinary applause, it was an ovation that seemed to come from the soul. People were crying, shouting, hugging each other. There was something sacred about what they had witnessed. Claudio stood still for several minutes, the stopwatch still in his hand, his face a mask of absolute shock. When he finally managed to speak, his voice was hoarse. She did it." Marty ran into the arena, tears streaming down his wrinkled face. "Girl, you performed a miracle." Dr. Henry quickly examined her, his hands trembling with emotion and relief. "You and the baby are all right?" Anna nodded, but her eyes didn't leave Ocelot. The horse remained calm beside her, as if he had finally found peace. Claudio approached slowly, carrying a backpack that everyone knew contained the promised 2 million reais. His expression had completely changed. There was no more arrogance, only a kind of reverence. "I don't understand how you did it," he said, extending the backpack. Anna looked at the money, then at Claudio, and shook her head. I didn't come here for the money. What do you mean? Claudio frowned. I came because I saw you treating Ocelot as a prize to be won, a challenge to be overcome. But he's a living being who just wanted to be understood. Anna stroked Ocelot's neck, who softly whinnied. You tried to tame him with force, but force only generates more fear. I offered him what no one had offered before, respect. Claudio lowered the backpack, his voice almost a whisper. Then what do you want? Anna looked around the arena, seeing faces transformed by the experience they had shared. I want Ocelot to have a choice, she said. I want him to be able to run free whenever he wants, to be treated as a partner, not as property. And I want other people to see that there's another way, that we can connect without subjugating, that we can be strong without being cruel. The silence that followed was absolute. Claudio studied Anna's face for a long moment, seeing a wisdom there that his expensive education and fortune had never taught him. What if I say this is impossible, he asked, that a horse like Ocelot needs to be controlled? Then you would have lost a bet far greater than 2,000,000 reais, Anna replied. You would have lost the chance to discover who you truly can be. Something cracked in Claudio's chest at that moment. Perhaps it was the cynicism he'd cultivated for years, or perhaps it was the fear of being vulnerable. He looked at Ocelot, who stood serene beside her, then at the crowd watching them in respectful silence. All right, he said finally. Ocelot will be free to choose, and you, he hesitated, then continued in a softer voice than Anna had ever heard him use. You have a job here for as long as you want. You and your baby will always have a home here. But Anna wasn't finished. There's one more thing, she said. What? The money. Donate it to an animal sanctuary, or to families in need. I can't accept money for something that should be natural, treating another living being with respect. Claudio's jaw dropped. He'd never met anyone who would refuse 2,000,000 reais. Are you sure? Absolutely. He shook his head, a genuine smile, perhaps his first in years, breaking out on his lips. Very well, it will be done. As the sun began to rise behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, the crowd slowly dispersed. But something had changed forever in those people. They had witnessed a small but profound miracle, the victory of understanding over domination, of kindness over force. Anna walked slowly toward the stables, Ocelot following beside her like an old friend. Dr. Henry and Marty accompanied them, still processing what they had witnessed. How did you know it would work? Dr. Henry asked. Anna stopped and looked toward the horizon, where the sun rose promising a new day. I didn't, she admitted, but I knew I had to try. Sometimes faith isn't about certainty, it's about doing what's right, even when we're afraid. She placed her hand on her belly, feeling the baby move gently. I want my child to grow up knowing that the world can be cruel, but that it doesn't have to be. That true strength comes from compassion, not domination. Marty wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Girl, you didn't just tame that horse, you tamed something in all of us. Anna smiled, the first time anyone had seen her smile since arriving at the ranch. I didn't tame anything, she said. I just showed that we don't have to live in fear of each other. Ocelot whinnied softly, as if in agreement. Anna stroked his muzzle, and for a moment the woman, the horse, and the baby growing in her belly seemed connected by something larger than any of them individually. As they walked toward the stables, leaving behind the arena where they had rewritten the rules about what it meant to be strong, Anna whispered the Romani song one last time. Her voice mingled with the soft sound of Ocelot's hooves on the earth, creating a melody of hope that would echo in the hearts of all who heard it for a long time. And so it was that Ana Luna, a pregnant woman who had arrived at the ranch with nothing but courage and compassion, taught a group of people, including a wild horse and a hardened millionaire, that true victory lies not in subjugation, but in understanding. That real strength is not measured by the ability to break, but by the ability to heal. In the end, she hadn't just tamed a horse. She had tamed the fear that prevents us from trusting, from being vulnerable, from believing that we can be better than we are. And in that golden dawn, with Ocelot walking free beside her and a new life growing in her womb, Ana Luna became living proof that sometimes the most powerful miracles come wrapped in the simplicity of a heart that refuses to harden. The bet she had truly won wasn't worth 2 million reais. It was worth so much more. It was worth the redemption of a soul, the freedom of a wild spirit, and the promise that the world, however harsh, still holds space for kindness to triumph.